Today, we're going to dig into a really popular story about hope and change. But here's a thought. What if that very story, the one with the monkeys and the magic number, is actually the reason so many great ideas end up failing? Let's get into it. I mean, we all want to believe this, right? The idea that one amazing breakthrough can just hit a tipping point and boom, the world is different. It's a really, really appealing thought. And there's this one story that seems to prove it's possible. It's got a bunch of monkeys, a new kind of snack, and a discovery that supposedly just changed everything for them in an instant. So let's start by unpacking the myth itself, because it's a really seductive story, one that basically promises a shortcut to huge society-wide change. Okay, so what is the 100th monkey effect? Well, the theory goes like this. Once a certain number of people, the 100th monkey, if you will, learns something new, that knowledge just magically jumps to everyone else. Like it doesn't need to be taught. It just spreads through the collective consciousness all at once. And you can see why we love this idea so much. It offers this incredible hope that all our small efforts will eventually add up to this critical mass. And then, poof, change becomes easy, automatic, inevitable. It's a really comfortable idea. But is it actually true? Well, you probably see where this is going. It's not. And that brings us to what the science actually says. We're going to look at what really happened on that island, with zero of the fairy tale stuff mixed in. So the real story from Koshima Island is, well, a lot less magical. Back in the 50s, scientists started giving sweet potatoes to these Japanese macaques. A clever young female named Emo figured out she could wash the sand off them in the water. But here's the key. The behavior spread slowly. We're talking over years as monkeys literally watched and copied each other. That whole magical tipping point part, yeah, that was added decades later by an author named Lyle Watson. And this chart just lays it out, plain and simple. The myth claims there was some magic tipping point. The reality? Nope, no specific moment or number. The myth says the idea spread spontaneously, magically. The reality? It was slow, gradual learning, one monkey watching another. And this one is huge. The myth says everyone got on board. But the science is crystal clear. The older, more established monkeys actually resisted the change. They didn't want to do it the new way. Okay, so if the science is so clear, why on earth does the story stick around? That brings us to our next part, the psychology of why we kind of need to believe in stories like this. It's a totally fair question, right? If the facts are right there, why do we cling so tightly to the myth? Well, the answer says a lot more about how our minds work than it does about monkeys. And if we look at the work of psychologists like Daniel Kahneman, we see a few things going on. First, our brains just love a simple, clean story, way more than a messy, complex reality. Second, a story that feels good and gives us hope often wins out over cold, hard facts. And if you hear a story enough times, it just starts to feel true, whether it is or not. To top it all off, when you try to debunk the myth, it can feel like you're stealing someone's hope, and nobody wants to be the hope thief. But here's the thing. Letting go of a false hope doesn't mean we give up. It means we have to find a better, more realistic model. So that's what we're doing next, looking at the real rules of change. When you actually look at the experts in behavioral science, a really clear pattern starts to show up. Everett Rogers tells us change is social. You need respected people to get on board first. The Heath brothers show us that changing the environment to make the new thing easy is way more powerful than trying to change beliefs. James Clear says, look, culture is just a bunch of habits that everybody agrees are okay. And Kahneman reminds us that people don't fear the new thing so much as they hate giving up the old comfortable thing. See? No magic, just mechanic. And this gets us to the single biggest thing the 100 monkey myth completely glosses over: resistance. We get so focused on counting the people who adopt a new idea, we totally forget about the powerful forces pulling everything back to the way it was. This chart really makes it obvious. You could have dozens of people all excited about a new way of doing things. But look what happens here. The resistance from just one high-status person, a boss, a respected elder, a community leader, can completely cancel out all that positive momentum. Change doesn't just stall from the bottom up, it gets blocked from the top down. So, if waiting around for a magic moment doesn't work, what does? This brings us to our final and honestly most important section, how we can swap out that hope for magic with a real framework for making change happen. And here is the absolute key. Real, lasting change isn't something that just gets handed to us. It doesn't just show up one day like a bolt of lightning. It's something that has to be built, intentionally, piece by piece. And here's the blueprint for how you build it. These are the 6 drivers. First, it has to be visible. People need to see it working with their own 2 eyes. It needs repetition, over and over, until the new way just feels normal. The incentives have to make sense. It's got to be worth it. You need social proof from peers you trust to make it feel safe. It needs institutional backing. The systems and rules have to support it. And finally, it takes time. A lot of time. Real change is measured in years, not in magic moments. And really, that's what this all comes down to. The 100th monkey myth is so comforting because it tells us that good change is inevitable, that we just have to wait for it. But the truth? The truth is so much more powerful. It tells us that change is absolutely possible, but it demands that we show up and do the work. It's not a spectator sport. It's on us to build the world we want to see.